So recently I was thinking about the Uchiha Massacre, which is just something I do sometimes. There's probably a lot to unpack there, but regardless, I was thinking about Shisui, and more importantly, Shisui's plan to try and avoid the Uchiha Massacre. See, for those of you who don't think about the Uchiha Massacre on a random Tuesday afternoon, honestly, Shisui's plan to avoid it was awful. Like, really legendarily bad. And none of the blame can be put on Shisui because obviously Itachi was also involved in the planning of trying to brainwash Fugaku into going against the coup. And on a surface level, the idea of using the Kotoamatsukame against the head of the Uchiha clan in Fugaku may seem like a good idea because obviously as the head of the Uchiha clan, he has the most important opinion on all things pertaining to the Uchiha clan. And therefore, if he were to express disdain for the idea of the Uchiha coup, there's a possibility other people in mass droves would move with him. That is to say that once his opinion on the Uchiha coup changed, so would everybody else's. And like I've said, on the surface level, that idea makes a lot of sense. It would be like if your favorite content creator said that a new video game wasn't very good before you played it. You would probably believe them because they've never led you astray prior, and also their opinion holds a lot of weight to you. And while this will not sway everyone, it will sway a good amount of people. And numbers are important. But when you start to peel back the layers of Shisui and Itachi's plan to brainwash Fugaku, you realize it was idiotic. But it's not because the idea was idiotic, but because Kotoamatsukame is a really bad genjutsu. Historically bad, like bottom 5 genjutsu in the entire show. And here's the thing, the public perception of Kotoamatsukame in the Naruto community is that it's the second greatest genjutsu of all time, with obviously Infinite Tsukiyomi being the first one. But after doing a lot of thinking today, I realized that way of thinking is just incorrect. And so today, I want to talk to you about just how bad the Kotoamatsukame is, and therefore, how bad Shisui's plan was. But before I get to making every single Shisui fan incredibly mad at me, guys, please, for me, like this video, subscribe to the page, and hit that noti bell. And if you want to spread your hatred towards me to even more pages, go ahead and follow my other YouTube channel, The Weeb Commander, where instead of talking about Naruto, I talk about any other anime. Or if you possibly want to help me share some of the blame, you can go ahead and follow my Otaku's Anonymous podcast on YouTube, where me and Danny Mata break down everything that happened in anime this week. But before we get into all that, guys, today I want to talk to you about a brand new sponsor to the page, PayPal Honey. But what is PayPal Honey, or as I like to call it, just Honey? Honey is your online shopping sidekick, the Robin to your Batman. Essentially, while you're out there shopping in the mean streets of the interwebs, Honey is working tirelessly to find you promo codes that'll make whatever you're looking to buy a little bit cheaper, or a lot of it cheaper, depending on the code that Honey finds for you. But use me, for example. Let's say I'm looking for a new pair of shoes. Well, I'm mulling over what pair of shoes would go perfectly with my most recently acquired cosplay to wear out to a convention near me. Honey is working tirelessly to make sure that that pair of shoes isn't more expensive than my convention ticket. And recently, just by downloading Honey, it saved me 15% on those very shoes I'm talking about right now, which left me with extra money to buy $19 chicken tenders. But I feel as though I'm really not conveying just how easy Honey is to use. Honey works for websites that you're already shopping at, on things that you already do or want to buy. Simply by adding a little Honey into your life, you could be saving money on purchases you're already gonna make. And let's be real, saving money's kind of fun. And saving money has never been easier because you can add Honey to your browser for free. Yes, for free at joinhoney.com/nchammer23. But make sure you go to the /23 page because, well, that supports me. So in summation, save money for free and help me. What's not to like? So the Kotoamatsukame, a legendary genjutsu capable of brainwashing people without them even having to make eye contact with you. A genjutsu so powerful and complete that you can rewrite a person's entire personality without them even knowing they've been placed under genjutsu. You can make a pacifist the most violent person in their village. You can make somebody leading a coup against the village believe that they should live in harmony with that village. Or you can manipulate the leader of the 5 Kage summit into siding with you. The possibilities of Kotoamatsukame seem almost endless. And because of the somewhat infinite possibilities granted by Kotoamatsukame, people like Danzo have been lusting over its power for as long as it's existed. With the possible first wielder of Kotoamatsukame being Kagami Uchiha, who was said to have visual genjutsu prowess similar to that of Shisui, which would make sense when we consider the fact that Kagami Uchiha is Shisui's grandfather. But if the Kotoamatsukame is so legendary and grants so many infinite possibilities, why am I saying it's one of the worst genjutsu in the entirety of Naruto? Well, because unfortunately, it just is. Let me quickly go through the weaknesses of the Kotoamatsukame and why these weaknesses would have led to problems for both Shisui and Itachi if they had actually decided to go through their plan of brainwashing Fugaku. You see, the Kotoamatsukame is everything I've already said that it is. It is a legendary genjutsu with the ability to brainwash anybody without even making eye contact with them. As we know, Danzo was able to launch Kotoamatsukame against Mifune without uncovering his eye under its bandage, meaning that by simply just looking upon somebody, you are able to rewrite their entire personality. But the problem is, Kotoamatsukame works like any other genjutsu. Yes, you're able to launch it without making eye contact. Yes, the person you're putting it under doesn't know they're being put under genjutsu, but it is still a genjutsu. And one of the biggest weaknesses of a genjutsu is that other people can see when you're under a genjutsu. See, when you're placed under a genjutsu, your chakra network appears differently. There's clear and obvious signs in your chakra network that your chakra is being disturbed in order to make you believe in a genjutsu. And there are a ton of ways to see this. The first and most obvious way is that any user of the Byakugan can look at your chakra network and very clearly see that you were under genjutsu. This is how Ao in the 5 Kage meetings was able to see that Mifune's chakra network was disturbed and therefore that he was under genjutsu that Danzo was using. As Ao was not only able to just see that Mifune's chakra network was disturbed and therefore that he was under genjutsu, but he was also able to see the fact that Danzo had Shisui's eyeball in his head, matching the chakra signatures from this eyeball to the disturbance in Mifune's body, making the immediate connection that Danzo was placing Mifune under genjutsu. So that's the first and most obvious way to detect whether or not somebody's under genjutsu, most specifically Kotoamatsukame. The second is the mind's eye of the Kagura. See, this is a technique specific to the Uzumakis, who we've seen Karin be able to use. And with this technique, if Karin closes both of her eyes and focuses on her third eye in her brain, she is able to see dozens of kilometers away. But not only is she able to see dozens of kilometers away, she's also able to see through objects, trees, rocks, buildings. But on top of that, she's also able to see the chakra networks of people that she's seeing with this mind's eye, which allow her to deduce things like their fighting abilities, if they're lying, or if they're under genjutsu. The third way that somebody can deduce whether or not you're under genjutsu is if they come into contact with your chakra network. This is why Jinchuriki can't be placed under genjutsu, usually, as the tailed beast who's in contact with the Jinchuriki's chakra network is able to send chakra into their system to disturb their chakra to break them out of genjutsu. Now, there's obviously circumstances where the tailed beast gets placed under genjutsu, like Obito did to Kurama, or circumstances where the tailed beast simply wouldn't want to break their Jinchuriki out of genjutsu. But more often than not, the golden rule states that a Jinchuriki cannot be placed under genjutsu. But this isn't only applicable to Jinchuriki, as medical ninjas and medical summons like Lady Katsuyo can come into contact with and understand the chakra networks of others. And upon coming into contact with these people's bodies and understanding that their chakra networks are being disturbed by genjutsu, could immediately break them out of it. You see, because here is the second problem with Kotoamatsukame. It can be broken like any other genjutsu. When Ao understood that Mifune was being placed under genjutsu by Danzo, all they had to do was place a hand on Mifune and go break. Simply by sending a little bit of chakra into Mifune's chakra network and disrupting his chakra much in the same way that a tailed beast would to a Jinchuriki, Mifune was able to be broken out of a legendary brainwashing genjutsu, which is insane. Yes, obviously, being able to brainwash somebody without them knowing is crazy powerful, but only if they live in a place where everybody's got their head in the sand. See, here's the thing. Danzo used Kotoamatsukame once that we know of, and he figured that he could use it at the 5 Kage Summit because there was no Hyuga there. Because here's the thing, there's a theory that I pretty much believe to be fact that Danzo never used Kotoamatsukame in the confines of Konoha because of the sheer amount of Hyuga. And these Hyuga, when they activate their Byakugan, are able to see in all directions for up to 1 kilometer. And while obviously there isn't a whole lot of situations where Hyuga needs to activate their Byakugan in Konoha, let's not act like it doesn't happen. So if hypothetically Danzo were to use Kotoamatsukame on somebody important in Konoha, if one Hyuga just happened to see them, they would see that they were under genjutsu. They then in the exact same way that Ao was able to deduce that the chakra signatures between Danzo's eye and Mifune's genjutsu were exactly the same, would be able to point a finger at Danzo. So Danzo, figuring that the 5 Kage Summit was the perfect place to pull off the Kotoamatsukame without realizing that Ao also had a Byakugan, finally used his Kotoamatsukame just to get caught the first time we see it used. Not to mention that Danzo only had a 1 or 3 day cooldown, I don't remember exactly, for using Kotoamatsukame because he had Hashirama's cell. And through the combination of having Ashura's DNA and chakra through Hashirama's cell and Indra's DNA and chakra through the Sharingan, he was able to recover from Kotoamatsukame much faster than Shisui. And when I say much faster, I don't mean like Shisui had to wait a week or 2 weeks. Nope. Shisui had to wait 10 years. And considering the fact that Shisui awoke his Mangekyo Sharingan when he was around 11 or 12, and that he had Kotoamatsukame in both of his eyes, Shisui, if he lived to 75, would have been able to use Kotoamatsukame, what, 12 times in his life? And it's not like when he uses Kotoamatsukame, it's just like,
oh, that ability's on cooldown, you still get one of your eyes.
Nope. When Shisui uses Kotoamatsukame, it closes one of his eyes for 10 years. Which means that, heaven forbid, if Shisui had to use Kotoamatsukame twice in one day, he would be blind for 10 years. And if it was obvious to Ao that Danzo casted Kotoamatsukame on Mifune because of the similarities in the chakra signatures, how obvious do you think it would be that Shisui recently used Kotoamatsukame if he couldn't open one of his goddamn eyes?
Hey Shisui, the Hokage's been acting super weird recently.
Oh, really? That's so weird. I haven't seen it.
And here's the thing. Everybody knows how Kotoamatsukame works. Everybody knows that Kagami Uchiha had a genjutsu prowess similar to that of Shisui. Tsunade, when she found out the genjutsu that Yagura was being placed under, hypothesized that Obito's genjutsu was related to Shisui's. Danzo knew how the Kotoamatsukame worked and therefore wanted it. The second somebody important starts acting like they don't usually act and Shisui's walking around like a pirate with one eye open, people are gonna ask questions. But since we're talking about Obito, let's talk about Obito. Obito basically created the Blood Mist Village. Obito, continuing the will of Madara and also acting in vengeance for the death of Rin, decided to basically destroy the Hidden Mist Village. Madara had obviously been manipulating the Hidden Mist Village for a long time, which is how he was able to put Rin in the situation to get killed by Kakashi to radicalize Obito. So Obito, wanting to enact revenge on the Hidden Mist for putting Kakashi in the situation to kill Rin, decided to put Yagura, the fourth Mizukage, under a genjutsu that trumped up his bloodlust. And while Yagura was already a violent person, this made him a maniacal dictator, a child prophecy with the power of Isobu who bathed himself in blood, a Mizukage who set the standard that ninjas in the Ninja Academy had to kill each other to make sure that only the strongest made it out, a system that created monsters like Zabuza and Kisame. But here's the thing. Yagura got placed under a genjutsu so complete that it brainwashed him into this person. And not only did Yagura not know it happened, but nobody else picked up on it, which is why Tsunade hypothesized that Obito's genjutsu was related to that of the Kotoamatsukame. But here's the thing, Obito's genjutsu almost killed Yagura when he was broken out of it. You see, Itachi and Yagura's fight is technically filler. It doesn't happen in the manga. What does eventually happen is that people deduce that Yagura wouldn't do the terrible things that he was doing and figure out that he's under genjutsu. It's at this point that Yagura is broken out of genjutsu, much in the same way that somebody breaks somebody else out of Kotoamatsukame. However, after being broken out of this genjutsu, the shock of being broken out of Obito's genjutsu almost kills Yagura. I mean, it actually technically does kill Yagura. See, the shock of being released from Obito's genjutsu puts Yagura into critical condition, where he exists until eventually he dies, which is why Isobu is eventually released back into the wild. So not only is Obito possibly able to use his genjutsu without any cooldown that has the exact same effects of Kotoamatsukame, but also whenever the person you use this genjutsu on gets broken out of it, they basically go catatonic. So not only does it give you everything in terms of brainwashing that Kotoamatsukame does, but it also shuts up the people you've brainwashed, even if they've been found out. Now, is there a distinct possibility that since Obito had all of the Sharingan after the Uchiha massacre, that he popped in one with a crazy genjutsu prowess and used it on Yagura? And then maybe, just maybe, that eye closed and he replaced that Sharingan with a new one? Yes, that's a possibility. But it's as much a possibility as the fact that Obito just had access to a genjutsu that was stronger than Kotoamatsukame with no cooldown. But here's the thing, the only reason it worked in the Hidden Mist is because Obito did it intelligently. See, like I already stated, Yagura was already violent, so trumping up his bloodlust isn't crazy. A violent person becoming more violent is just escalation, which is why for a very long time, nobody asked questions about the decisions that Yagura was making. But within the confines of the Hidden Mist Village, there was no dojutsu or incredible medical ninjas, people that would be able to deduce that Yagura was placed under genjutsu, which is why it took so long. But the thing about brainwashing is if anybody knows the person being brainwashed, brainwashed, the second they start acting weird, people are gonna get suspicious. Like if, I don't know, the leader of the Uchiha clan, who was the biggest and loudest voice for the Uchiha, overthrowing Konoha in a coup, just one day decided, you know what? Coup's off. A 180 like that would surprise a lot of people. Because, and while we did technically learn in the Itachi Light novels that Fugaku wasn't the most ardent voice in the planning of the coup, and it was actually the people around Fugaku that were pushing him up to be the leader of this coup, Fugaku did still very much believe in the coup, but he wasn't like flying coup flags. And in fact, there's actually a really cool scene in the second Itachi Light novel when he's doing the massacre, where Itachi finds people who would prop Fugaku up as the real head of the Uchiha coup, even though he didn't believe in it as much as the other people, and he kills them like very slowly. It's awesome. But regardless, a very important person switching an ideology overnight is a bit wild. And what's funny is that Shisui and Itachi knew this would happen. See, the reason that Itachi didn't go to the Uchiha clan meeting that night is because they figured that when Shisui used Kotoamatsukame on Fugaku, people would believe that Itachi was the person who switched Fugaku's thinking, and people would blame Itachi for Fugaku's lack of fervor when it comes to the Uchiha coup, and thus Itachi was said to stay outside that night. So they already knew that the Uchiha clan would be suspicious of Fugaku's change in mindset, but it gets significantly worse than that. You see, because the Byakugan is not the only dojutsu that can see chakra networks. Yes, that's right. The Sharingan can also see chakra networks. In the early days of Naruto, we saw Sasuke use the Sharingan to not only see through objects, but also detect chakra signatures. Now, does the Sharingan detect chakra signatures as well as the Byakugan? No. You can't see all the individual Tenketsu points or in as great detail as the Byakugan can. You can and will see chakra networks, which means there is a significantly higher than 0% chance that one user of the Sharingan will be able to see if Fugaku's chakra network is being messed with. So trying to use the Kotoamatsukame on somebody who constantly stands in front of a bunch of people with Sharingans, not our best idea. There's also the fact that once again, everybody knows how Kotoamatsukame works. So if Fugaku just decides to switch up one day and people are able to see that his chakra networks are a little wonky and Shisui has one eye closed, not only are they going to immediately break Fugaku out of Kotoamatsukame, they are going to know that Shisui is a spy, which will not only not stop the coup, but probably accelerate the timeline. So it was a very bad idea, and honestly kind of have to side with Danzo here, because he stated that this dojutsu would be better used in his hands. And by that, Danzo meant basically not used at all. What do you guys think? Do you think the Kotoamatsukame has redeeming abilities? Do you think outside of its weaknesses, it still has some strength that make it incredibly powerful? Tell me in the comments below, and while you guys are down there, please, for me, like this video, subscribe to the page, and hit that noti bell. I'm stuck between Shisui was stupid and the Kotoamatsukame is weak for titles. I don't know which one will make people more angry.